Guys, what's up? This is Ari in the Air. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for being here. I'm stoked you're here. I'm a professional paraglide pilot, and I do tutorials here on YouTube for free. If you want to support my cause, consider donating. That's paypal.me/Ari in the Air. I also do a podcast, philosophy. I got an Instagram. Check me out. Today, we are going to talk about how to fly a paraglider 100 fucking miles. How do you do it, you ask? I'm going to tell you in this episode. Here we go. See ya.
I'm paragliding! See ya!
Okay, so you want to fly a paraglider really far. And the thing is, paragliders, they're not rocket ships. No. They're pretty much more like butterflies. So if you want to fly really far, it's going to take a while. So if it's going to take a while, that means you're going to have to be in the air for a while. That means you can't land, you can't starve, you can't freak out. So the key to flying a paraglider really far is kind of just comes down to comfort. Can you manage your glider in the conditions that would take you 100 miles for the duration that it would take you to fly 100 miles? Also, do you know what the conditions are that would take you 100 miles? It's really not much harder than flying 20 miles, but it just takes longer. So, today we're going to talk about some of the pillars to comfort that are going to let you sit in your paragliding harness and manage your systems for 6 hours, right? I've done a couple of 100-mile flights. One took me a little over 3 hours. One took me 5 hours. One took me 6 hours. So, yeah, you're gonna be up there a while. So, first of all, having your harness adjusted properly so it's as comfortable as you can possibly have it is more obvious than I want to say, right? It's pretty obvious. Second thing about your harness is you got to have the weight distribution figured out. Sometimes I put a big Camelback, like a 3-liter Camelback, so that I can drink water while I fly, which is really important. And if I put that in the back of the harness, then when I push full speed bar and I kind of extend my legs, the whole system starts to wheelie and I'm like, my feet kind of get above my head. It's not a good situation. So take your Camelback and put it in your ballast pocket if you can, okay? It means that your Camelback tube comes from between your legs, which your condom catheter tube comes between your legs too. So another thing is not getting your tubes mixed up. But putting your ballast, your water, the heaviest things in your ballast pocket is primo. Just makes your harness more stable. It just makes everything easier. Okay, so that's the harness stuff. And also having your speed bar adjusted properly. I talk about that in other videos. Having your systems kind of dialed. Which kind of leads me to the nutrition part, right? I typically will drink, in a 4-hour flight, I'm going to drink more than 2 liters of water, and I'm going to piss probably 3 or 4 or 5 times. So you got to have water, and you got to have access to it. You also have to wear a condom catheter. And for ladies, there's actually a new thing that just came out for sailplane pilots that's kind of a condom catheter that's not too intrusive, that let's look into, but maybe if I can find it, I'll post a link below. But I've talked to paraglide pilots who are learning cross-country, and they're like, yeah, I don't like condom catheters. They're like, yeah, it doesn't feel good. I'm like, no, you're thinking about this all wrong. I love condom catheters. I don't like how it feels on my dick, but I love the fact that when I put one of these things on, it's because I'm going to go into the sky and I plan to be there for 3 hours or more, right? That's an amazing thing, and the concept of a condom catheter is something that I just absolutely love. So I deal with all of the comfort things. Who cares about that? You're going paragliding for 100 miles. Like, come on, get over it. Anyways, so Gavin McClurg has told a number of us that at the top of every climb, you should drink water. Take a drink of your water at the top of every climb. And every hour on the hour, you should eat something. So typically, I will have an apple, and I won't eat my apple until 2 hours in. And then once I hit 2 hours in flight, then every hour after 2 hours, I will eat something. Typically, that starts with a apple, and then it will be like a protein bar. I try to find the protein bars that have the most protein in them because they kind of just like stay in me a little bit longer. Also, when I'm in Mexico, I tend to eat gafas, like these beautiful pastries that my friend Nico, the baker there, makes. So shout out to Nico. El Horno Mexico, the Magic Oven Bakery in San Cristobal de las Casas, Chiapas, Mexico. Excellent flying food. But yeah, staying hydrated and staying fed is really important just so your brain works properly and you make reasonable decisions as you're flying cross country, right? Another thing with comfort is the conditions and just managing the glider. So if you're going to fly in a day that has 4 meter a second climbs, like a 4 meter a second climb it's pretty full on, right? It's real. So you definitely want to be comfortable in those kinds of conditions. And the things that you can do as a pilot to make yourself comfortable in those conditions are, while starting a progression of flying in midday thermic conditions that starts you in the morning, and then as you get better and better, you can launch later and later, or earlier and earlier from the evening down. That kind of thing is like a really important progression. You don't want to just jump in and launch at noon from Pine Mountain in the desert here in Oregon, like you're asking for it. But also, SIV is so important. SIV, acrobatics, stalls, and spins. Spins are so overlooked. People talk about the stall all the time like it's the reset, but it's typically the spin that is like something that inexperienced pilots run themselves into and not have a really good way out of. So spins and stalls and frontals and accelerated frontals and all that shit that you do in SIV, it's so important if you really want to be comfortable with your glider when you're flying for 6 hours, because the chance that you're going to fly for 6 hours and not take some kind of frontal tuck or frontal collapse or a 50% or something, like I pretty much take some kind of collapse on every flight, and it's because I'm braver than I am good. But there's people that never take collapses, okay? So you don't have to take a collapse, but it's likely that you will. Anyway, what else? I like your fitness, just like being in a reasonable shape, that you're not just a couch jockey and then you go to try to fly 5 hours in a paraglider. And you also don't want to be stressing about the retrieve, so you either need to be if you don't have a retrieve that's following you, then just be comfortable with the adventure that you're going on that leads to hitchhiking or, coronavirus or whatever. Also, your instrumentation, like having these things dialed and having these systems that you've worked with and having kind of redundant systems so you have a backup vario in case your battery dies or blah, blah, blah. These kind of things are really helpful. But notice that when we talk about how to paraglide 100 miles, we don't talk about thermaling, because if you can't catch a thermal, then you're not going to fly 1 mile. So if you can fly 20 miles, you can fly 100 miles. The difference between flying 20 miles and 100 miles is comfort and patience and persistence. And these are things that you really build up to. If you remember your first paragliding flight, it was like 30 seconds long, and it was just like so overstimulating that you didn't even remember any of it. And then the first time you flew for 20 minutes, you were like, oh my God, I think it was 2 hours. And the first time you actually fly for an hour, you're like, wow, I was up there all day. And it's just like, as we progress in paragliding, we are able to take in more stimulus and process more stimulus. And that way we don't get overstimulated, we don't get mentally exhausted, and we can really build up having a tolerance for this level of stimulation. Obviously, cross-country paragliding is like hyper-stimulating. There's just all these things to observe and decisions to make. And so as we get better and we have more experience, we just get more tolerance and more resilience to be in the sky. And so take your time. It really doesn't happen overnight. You'll get a 20-mile flight, then you'll get a 40-mile flight, and then you'll get a 50-mile flight, and then one day the conditions will just line up. So drop your expectations, leave your expectations at home. Just go outside and have fun and launch your paraglider and have safe launches, safe landings. You don't have to try hard to fly 100 miles. The days that 100 miles are possible, it really isn't that hard. It's not that technical. The conditions are good. The thermals go tall and the wind is at your back. And it's just like you take a climb and you go downwind. You take a climb, you go downwind. You take a climb, you go downwind. It's really not that crazy, okay? So it comes down to your comfort and your experience and being safe in the sky. So I hope this helps you. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. I answer them all. Like I said, if you want to support my project, whether that's the philosophy I talk on my podcast and the people that I'm interviewing there, or the paragliding tutorials that I'm doing here, support me. All of this stuff is donation based. I'm a listener funded. Gift economy, guys. Coronavirus, we're trying to invent a new world here, so consider donating. That's paypal.me/airintheair. I really appreciate the support that you guys are giving. We will see you on the next episode. You guys fly safe. Stay sane if you're stuck inside, okay? Love you. Peace.